Hello, geeks and geekettes, and welcome back to another Star Trek Discovery podcast with me, Mr Sinn Sinny, and I'm not joined by Ash today. I'm joined by David. I got your name right.
You got my name right.
Yes, I had to think about it. David joins me from the Geekstation podcast, released every Monday on YouTube. Hello, David. Welcome.
Hello, Sin. Thank you.
This is weird because you were here like literally yesterday recording recording the podcast. But you're joining us today. Ash would have been here as well, but he's not feeling very well. So you decided that you wanted to join us and talk about all things Trekkie. Now, you're not a Star Trek fan, are you?
I'm not a massive Star Trek fan. I did grow up watching it.
Okay, all right.
Because my dad was a massive fan of it. He used to watch all of like Voyager, New Generation. That's not what it's called.
No,
Really lost all the listeners then. Next Generation, Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
And I've seen a few of the.
He's a good man.
Few of the original movies as well.
Okay.
So I've seen a lot of it, but it was all just sat down in the living room, eating dinner, watching it as well.
And have you seen the new J.J. Abrams stuff as well?
I have, yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Because this new series is not. This isn't a very original Trek. This is very Abrams-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of this, what I'm trying to reconcile at the moment with the series is that it's not Trek at the moment, although it is Trek, and it's really frustrating me because I'm really enjoying it. And tonight's episode was even better. It's, I think, possibly the best one yet. I think it's getting better and better. Although maybe last week, I don't know, I'm not sure yet. But it just feels a bit. It just doesn't. It feels too
cinematic.
Yeah, I suppose so. But then that's the thing is, like, the TV shows came out in the 90s, kind of late 80s, 90s, and then obviously the TOS came out in the 60s. So it's not going to feel like that.
Yeah, there's no stationary cams. It's not like a 2-camera operation.
Yeah,
one person's view, then another.
Yeah, and it's got a $2.5 million budget per episode. Yeah. So it's Star Trek has never had that budget before. It feels like a film. Each one feels like a film, and that's exciting. But considering it's supposed to be set 10 years before the original series, mm-hmm. I'm still trying to reconcile that.
Yeah, like they're getting better technology, but it's way before they should have.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Like if they set it like 200 years after Voyager.
Yeah, well, this is what people are saying, that it's either set it in the J.J. Abrams timeline or set it after after Voyager or after Deep Space Nine or after Picard or anything like that, and it would be much better. But so I was thinking that I had this thought last week suddenly after we finished recording, and I was chatting to Ash about it, and I said I'd bring it up just before we dive into the episode. Is that actually my theory is that this new drive that they've got, this new kind of, what are you doing down there?
I'm just trying to get my glasses.
Oh, okay, right. David's just off mic trying to delve into his bag.
I don't think I brought them.
No, great. So my theory is that this drive that they've got,
I found them.
Hey, nice. I think what they're going to do is I think that they're going to mess with time. So I think that at some point they're going to end up going back in time and changing something that then alters the timeline. That's the only thing I can think of that they're going to get away with explaining the major differences that they've got in this compared, because this is set 10 years before the original series. Mm-hmm. And it's either that or they're just going to completely ignore it, which is fine as well, I suppose. But if this series is to have any longevity, if it's going to run for 5, 6, 7 seasons, maybe more, I don't know. I feel like they need to do some explanation as to...
I do completely understand what you mean with that, especially with now that we've seen the ship and its rotation.
Yeah.
Which came out of nowhere, and it does seem that it could be the possibility that they maybe have come from the future.
Yeah, well...
If you know... because it seems like their technology, while some of it is, not archaic, because obviously it's not archaic because it's set hundreds of years in the future. But... I feel like that could be some kind of explanation, or they could be like, maybe not them from the future, but they could have something sent back from the future.
Well, this is it, because I mean, even in Star Trek Generation, in Star Trek The Next Generation, gosh, look at me, I'm getting it wrong now as well. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, they didn't have these heads-up displays with pinch to zoom and stuff like that, and I get that it's a Star Trek show from 2017. I get that. Mm-hmm. So obviously they're going to make it feel sharper and cleaner and more up to date.
Yeah, they want new people. They want new, because obviously they want a next generation of people that may not have watched it before. They may be like myself that grew up watching it just because it was on and that's what your dad was watching, or that's what your mum was watching, or something like that. And now that obviously it's only available online as well. It's only available on Netflix in the UK, and it's only available, I think, CBS online.
All access,
so it's something you have to go on the internet for. So it's not necessarily going to be aimed at the older generation, whilst they may watch it because they want to watch it because it's Star Trek, but they're trying to pull in a new audience.
It's a whole, that's it. And I get that, but I still... I don't know. I still
feel like it's losing something.
Well, it's the thing is, it wouldn't bother me so much. It's just that they have stated that this is set in the Prime timeline, so that you've got the two timelines. You've got the Prime, which is all the TV shows, the films, and then you've got Abrams' timeline, which is I don't know what it's called. Oh, the Kelvin timeline.
Okay.
Which is basically where in the first film the Romulan went back in time and changed the course of history, which is why the ship looks brighter and sharper and everything, all the technology slightly more advanced. And know that, and that makes sense. This is not set in the Kelvin timeline. This is set in the Prime timeline, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm still trying to reconcile that. However, it's still very good. So let's talk about this episode. So this episode was entitled "The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry." So yet another kind of quite ostentatious episode title, which I've got no trouble with. I don't think they managed to fit in the title of the episode as they did last week. Last week they managed to put Context for Kings into a speech.
Oh, did
Captain
they?
Gage. Yeah. But they didn't do that in this. But let's go through the episode anyway, and I have some thoughts. So, the captain it's very much a war-centric episode, and we open with him basically running drills on the ship. He's preparing the ship and the crew for battle, and kind of quite a cool little battle simulation that they had going on the ship. I love the bridge, and I love the fact that he's just standing there, with his arms behind his back, just like some admiralty on a ship somewhere, just like
he's expecting every move to happen that's happening, and he's completely in control.
That's it.
Which is obviously understandable because it was a simulation. But
even later on in the episode when they actually go, he's still he's just calm, collected, and then they fail, and he's like, "You're all dead." And he turns around and gives a slow clap to the bridge crew, which I just thought, I mean, this guy is
I do like him.
Yeah, no, he's good. And he has a nice moment later on, which we'll come to. But he decides that Michael is going to help him out with the research into this creature that they pulled from the ship before. And she's like, he's like, we want to use it to build a weapon, basically. Yeah. And she's like, well, maybe we should study it.
Yeah, maybe we should find out what it is before we try and use it as a weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which kind of builds into the Star Trek mythos of this is they're explorers. They're not fighters.
Yeah.
Although he really is I do really like him in this. We saw a lot more of his psyche in this as well, and a lot more. He's a bastard.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. He's a.
Well, yeah, but obviously because especially with the engineer, the guy head of engineering. That's right. That's what he is.
Yeah, Stammet is his name. Yeah.
He has a lot of disdain for the captain as well.
Oh, for sure.
He doesn't respect him being in the position he's in because obviously he feels he's a doctor, he's a scientist. The majority of them do have quite a large ego.
Yes.
So they obviously feel that
for sure.
It was built for his research, so he should be in charge.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do like the captain. I think it should be quite good with him.
Yeah, no, it's so far, as I say, it's I'm liking what they're doing with him. Well, there's a moment we'll come to when we get to it. So we go from on the Discovery, and then we flick to the Klingons, and we discover that the Klingon flagship that I want to say Kuvma.
Tukuva.
Tukuvma. There we go. Tukuvma.
I'm not sure that's the correct Klingon pronunciation. I think you were supposed to spit halfway through.
That's true, actually. Yeah, no, I think I was. Yeah. But my Klingon's not very good, so I won't try. Yeah. So this is the thing, right? With these Klingons and I was telling you this while we were watching it, is they're not Klingons, and it almost feels like the writers and the creators are shitting a little bit all over 40 years worth of Trek.
They look like Klingons that have been left in a a bath for a bit too long.
Yeah, no, they do, but they've also got elongated heads.
Yep.
They look more
6
like
nostrils.
They look a bit like the aliens from Alien.
Yeah,
almost
just a really scaled down version.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they're all talking Klingon. That's quite cool, and I like the fact that it's all subtitled. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because otherwise we wouldn't know.
Well, yeah, no, obviously, yeah. But anyway, so we discover that the flagship, the Tukuvma's ship, which led the battle in the first 2 episodes, has been stranded and left out of the war between Klingons and Federation
for 6 months.
That's right, because it's been irreparably damaged, or at least damaged beyond repair. And they've been trying to get it back up and running, but the crew now is starving. We discover that I can't remember the albino that kind of took over from Tukuvma. We discovered the torchbearer, the Vok. There we go, Vok of House.
Because Cole was the other guy, right? Something like that.
Yeah. But we discovered that Vok ate the captain.
Yeah.
Which that was like, whoa, okay.
Such a brilliant offhand comment as well.
No, it was, yeah. Like, even when you ate her skull, and it's like, okay, that happened, sure, yeah, okay. And we realise that they're starving, and that perhaps their only way of getting the tech back is by going back over to the Shenzhou. So it's quite nice that we kind of have a flashback or a they haven't. The Federation just abandoned the ship.
Yeah.
Like, it was all hands gone.
Completely destroyed.
That's it. Yeah, we don't even going to salvage it, so that kind of sets it up for later on in the episode. And then we go back to the Discovery, where we see the captain enjoying his food, gets a call from the Admiralty. We're back to these holographic communications again, which I think look really cool, and I love the fact that they can walk around like on the ship as holograms. But they didn't even have that technology in like the far-flung futures of Voyager and Deep Space Nine.
They don't even have it in Avengers either.
No, they don't have it in
Avengers. Special tubes.
This is just I don't know. It's weird, but anyway. So we a Federation colony or a mining colony, which apparently equates to 40% of dilithium. Do you know what dilithium is?
I don't.
It's the fuel that makes starships go, basically.
Okay.
So it's like,
I kind of guessed that to an extent, because obviously that's what they were. We'll probably hit this later on, but that's what the Klingons were doing.
They were looking for some sort of dilithium matrix or something. That's right. Yeah. So I appreciate that they're not shying away from the Star Trek tech in this. Let's just say a whole load of stuff and hope it makes sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
It's like they had a bunch of like buzzwords they had to hit.
Yeah, each
episode.
They do, but that's Star Trek, and that's why we love it, because you can just watch it and you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but it sounds cool.
Yeah, I like this word. This is a fun word.
Yeah.
Dilithium. That's a good word to say.
Yeah, exactly.
I might name my daughter Dilithium.
And actually, there's a really cool thing in the Next Generation where they have the transporters. And around the time, quite a famous scientist, and I must confess, I don't know my Trek well enough to say it, but a real life scientist came up with this kind of theory that you would need you wouldn't be able to reassemble all your atoms, because you'd need to know exactly where every single atom was going and in which direction it was going in order to reassemble them. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So let's say that they're called, I don't know, Kushner or whatever. So in the Next Generation, they go, the Kushner buffer's gone down or something like that, and it's just kind of like quite a nice little nod that they're talking about all this tech in the transporter, and they go, we'll just throw in a little bit of real life science in there, which I appreciate every now and then. It makes no sense, but it's nice to.
Yeah, it makes no sense, but it also makes perfect sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, she says basically that this mining colony is under attack. And the only ship within range is the Discovery, and it's time to use the spore drive to get them in. And there's a really cool line where she goes, "Are you ready?" And he goes, "I told you we would when you asked.
Yeah,
we're ready."
Yeah, we're ready.
And then it immediately cuts to engineering, and Statman goes, "Absolutely, no way,
can't do it." No.
And the thing is, right, those types of tropes, when they're in TV shows and films, you know it's coming. But they are always so good. Yeah. I love it. They just always make me giggle.
That was like one of the more perfectly timed ones as well.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was really well done. So he's basically, the engineer's like, I can't do it. It's not going to happen. Is this when? No, that's later on. We'll come to that. Great. But basically, the engineer goes, "I can't do it. It's not going to happen. I'm gonna no. Basically, yeah. And then So, but then the captain's like, "No, you're going to make it work. We're going to get it going." And then kind of reluctantly agrees that, okay, sure, we'll give it a try. Okay, why not? So they're back on the bridge and they're going to give it a try, and they end up basically transporting themselves. This is when we see the ship move for the first time, which is really weird. The way that the saucer section just
it kind of
spins.
It kind of spanned like around itself, but then it kind of spanned the other way.
Well, I think when they engage the drive, it starts spinning in different directions. So to start with, it's like the inside is spinning and the outside is spinning, a bit like Hypnodisc from Robot Wars. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and then they engage the drive and it all spins. And I love how they go to black alert and everybody mans their stations and they all check in, and it's really sci-fi and really Trekkie, and I love that. And then the first officer, which I absolutely love, the tall guy. I always keep forgetting their name. Saru.
Yeah.
He's with the little tendrils,
the little fringe at the back of his head.
That's right. Yeah. And he's like, "Ready when you are, sir." And I love it. So every captain's always had like their catchphrase, which is, like, so Picard was like engage, and when they're ready to go to warp, and Lorca, this captain's just like, go.
No. Yeah,
Like, that's what he said. He's just like, go. Like, there's no ceremony. There's no like. So anyway, so they transport effectively into a sun. Doesn't work very well, and this is when we had some internet issues. But this show looks really good.
And it was a really good place for it to freeze as well.
Yeah, it was.
Like, it could have frozen in many places.
Yeah, and we had like the burning sun in the background with like a little the ship just like silhouetted.
Perfectly centralized on the screen as well, yeah.
It looks, you can see where a lot of the money's going.
Yeah. That was like the first time you saw the the silhouette of the ship as well, and the fact that it's not like the ring that span when it went into
spore drive,
spore drive,
whatever,
like that's almost kind of detached from the rest of it, for it to be able to spin
there's the saucer section is made up of two rings, and there's like a gap between the two rings. I really appreciate the look of this ship. So apparently the ship's based on a design of they were going to relaunch the original series after the films. And that was the ship that they were going to be in. So it's going to be like the Enterprise 2. But then all those ideas then got poured into the next generation and with the redesigned ship. So this is kind of Star Trek canon, but kind of not. So I kind of appreciate that they've gone back to use some original designs, which is quite nice. So anyway, So the next bit we see is we flick back to the Klingons, and another I don't know what you want to call him, like captain of another ship, turns up on the Klingon flagship, and we discover that this ship is the only one with a cloaking device. So you know what I mean? The one that makes them disappear.
Yeah.
So
how about a cloaking device?
Okay, well, good. I don't know how much. If I was speaking to Ashley, I'd know because he's major Trekkie. But this is a bit weird that this is the only ship with a cloaking device, because
it seems to be like the least respected ship as well.
Well, yeah, and it's really odd because 10 years in the future, every Klingon ship will have a cloaking device. And I don't get, again, this is the thing, they're messing with the classic Star Trek canon. I don't get how they're going to go from where they are now to where William Shatner and Kirk and Spock, and it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit odd. But anyway, we'll skip over that. So, and he basically, you can see it in his eyes that he's messing with this guy. With
it seemed
Vok.
a bit too. He was too kind.
Yeah, but basically Vok was like, whatever is mine is part of is we're all Klingons, and they do that whole to be Klingon in all of this, and you think, oh, lovely, they're all going to get on really well. To be continued.
We'll put a pin in that.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so we're back to the Discovery, and they're in sickbay, and the chief engineer's having his nose reset. And he makes quite
a nasty nose break as well.
Yeah, and we missed the bit where his skull was impacted and stuff like that. And there was a nice little. I quite like the chief medical officer, and I love
sassy.
Yeah, and I love the costumes. I love the fact he's all in white, and that the uniforms look really cool.
Yeah,
I think they
yeah,
look.
I do. They do look. They look wildly different.
Yeah, but they look futuristic enough to kind of be Star Trekky.
Yeah,
and kind of I quite like that. But anyway, so the captain comes in and is like, "Well, what happened?" And then the engineer's like, "Well, I told you it wasn't going to work, so you just get off my case."
Yeah,
and he's like, "Well, you can leave then." And he's like, "Fine, I will. But if I'm going to leave, I'm going to take all my technology with me." And he's like, "Well, no, you're not.
No, this belongs to Starfleet.
Yeah,
you signed up.
Exactly.
This is how it works.
Yeah, so you're either on board or my way or the highway, basically." Yeah. So the guy goes and storms out. And this is when we really see how much... I mean, I understand why he does it, but this guy's a dick. Lorca, I mean, but a good dick.
Yeah.
Basically, he goes, computer, open up a shipwide hail. And the computer goes, working, shipwide, and he goes, play the distress calls from the mining colony. And then we see shots throughout the ship and the engineer as he's deciding what to do and stuff. And he's literally just playing these distress calls of
people just like their last moment alive, just like asking for help
and dying and women and children screaming. And it's like...
You can hear one of them like shaking their child in the background, just like, why aren't you moving? Why? Yeah.
And it's brutal.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're not... The thing is, I mean, I mentioned it last week. Like, they swore, and they swore on this one as well, and they swore in the last... This is not your classic Trek. This is... People are dying. We're at war. We're not going to hold our punches. I'm a captain of a ship, and goddamn it, I'm going to play the distress calls of dying people to rouse my crew. Like...
To get them on my side and get them...
Yeah. I mean, like, this... We have never had a starship captain like this before.
They've all been quite... straight edge, but with their own like little sass.
But this is it. But this is also the most kind of conflicty we've ever had of Starfleet. Like, people don't like other people, whereas like I've been rewatching The Next Generation recently, and there's like, there's a moment where like Worf, the Klingon on The Next Generation, will go like, "But I disagree, sir," and then they'll go, "Are you disrespecting me?" And there's like, "No, sir, no, I would never do that. I'm sorry." And it's just like literally in the scene, it's like they're friends again. And whereas this is like, "You're a dick. You're an asshole. Get off my ship." And then it's not like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I hurt your feelings?" No, it's none of that. It's like, "I'm going to hurt you more. Listen to these people that are dying." It's just, I really like that. Yeah. I really appreciate that decision. So
you can definitely get a sense that he is definitely a captain for war.
Yeah, no, definitely, yeah. I mean, because he is. This is the whole point: is that he's had this injury that means that he can't go in bright lights or something. So he's hardened by war for sure. Anyway, and then we cut to, I think, probably my favourite scene in this, and I liked it because it just came completely out of left field. You did
react quite loudly.
Yeah. I had so this is when we're back on in like the little research room with Michael and Commander Landry, who's the chief tactical officer, chief head of security, comes in, and she's like, "I've been told to come and help you with this creature. We're going to try and understand its secrets and use it to win the war."
Yeah.
And against Michael's explicit advice, she's like, "I'm going to go into the pen. I'm going to cut off a claw from this creature, and I'm going to give it to you to study."
Yeah, I'm going to use sedation, even though we have no idea what sedation does to this creature. We don't know anything about it, but yeah, I'm gonna do it, and then I'm just gonna walk in.
Yeah. And so the computer goes, "Sedation field complete," and she's like, "Okay, cool. Lower the force field." Then she brings up her gun, and the creature comes charging out, and it's like, whoa, okay. And then her reaction as a good tactical officer is to start shooting it, and then the monster just jumps on her, rips her about a bit. Michael manages to get the creature back into the pen by bringing all the lights up, because it doesn't like the light.
Yeah.
Does an emergency transport to sick bay, and then the next scene is literally cuts to like the doctor looking down, shaking his head, and like pulling over like a covering it up.
She wasn't wearing a red shirt before she died, but she was when she died.
No, and it's like, and the thing is, like, what got me is that this is a member of the senior crew, which so traditionally, Star Trek focuses on the 6 or 7 senior crew. You never see anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
This I kind of quite like because the captain's a bit distant and he's, it's more about the other characters. But you would never have, the only time we ever had it really was like Tasha Yar, who was the chief tactical officer in Next Generation, died in the first series. And that was a big shock to everybody. And I suppose this is kind of like a bit like a homage to that. But other than that, it's like, you ever watch George of the Jungle from Disney?
This came way out of left
field. Yeah. Well,
is this the one with Brendan Fraser in it?
Yes. Well, there's a line in that where this is a Disney film and people don't die; they just get really big boo-boos.
Oh, okay.
Well, Star Trek's like that. Yeah. Main characters don't die; they
unless you're wearing a red shirt.
Well, yeah. Well, no, but a main character, would
never wear a red shirt.
Well, and it's like they just get really big boo-boos. This character just got ripped to pieces, like brutally.
It was graphic as well.
Yeah, and you saw
when
it.
They panned over her body in sickbay, and it's just like, not even lesion, just like gaping wounds, and it's just
It was, it was, as I say, I reacted.
You did react.
I was not expecting that at all, and I like that. If that's the way that they're going to go with this series, I'm on board with that because the thing about Star Trek is sometimes it can get a bit stale. Mm-hmm. And because it's the same thing, and they're going to get into this situation.
Yeah, it's
and
like Monster of the Week kind of formula.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And you know that they're going to probably solve their problem by sitting down and talking about it and have a cup of tea and, fire phasers as a last resort. Yeah. Whereas this is like, no, monster's jumping at you, monster's going to attack you, your monster killed you.
Yeah, this definitely seems like it's... Because like I said, I grew up watching Next Generation, Voyager... Deep Space Nine, it was always kind of like a Monster of the Week type thing. They had one thing that was going wrong on that episode, and then they had to work the way through it. They'd hit certain points, and then things would start to go in their favor. And obviously, this season, it's a long game for for what's going on.
It feels more like a TV series from 2017. Yeah. It's like it's a big long story arc rather than exactly as you say, Monster of the Week, which is fine. I'm on board with that. I want to binge it. Yeah, that's the problem.
It's usually this case with like first seasons for a lot of things. They'll try and get a big story in because then they don't get cancelled.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. But I think with this one, I think they've actually all filmed all the episodes. I think, or they have at least filmed the first 9 or whatever that's coming out this year. So, Anyway,
are they going to be splitting this into?
Yeah, they announced that there was going to be 8 this year and 7 next year, but they've actually announced there's going to be 9 episodes this year and then.
Did they just not know how to count the weeks? Is
that
what happened?
Well, my guess is that traditionally the seasons of Star Trek are always separated by a 2-parter. I think they're one of the few series that kind of coined that. We'll split it over seasons with a to be continued type of thing, and I think that was probably originally going to happen over Christmas. But I think maybe that they've decided actually no, we'll just have a double episode at the end.
At the beginning as well, though.
Yeah. So I'm if that's the case, I'm quite looking forward to that. That might be quite cool. But anyway, so moving on, we kind of get to Michael Burnham realizes that the creature kind of quite likes the spores that they're keeping on the ship, and she there's a nice moment where she brings them in and opens them up and releases the force field, despite the fact that she's just witnessed.
Because she brought the tall dude. I can't remember his name again now.
Saru. Yeah, that's right.
Because she brought him in because they had an earlier conversation, and because of how he feels about her.
But he has these, these tendrils were coming out, and when he senses danger, senses death, and she kind of tests him by basically bringing her in and. He doesn't react to the fact that the creature's behind the force field.
So he doesn't feel scared.
So maybe the creature isn't a threat. So she discovers that actually this creature has a connection with these spores, so much so that they decide to beam the creature straight into their garden, where they're growing all these kind of exotic mushrooms. And we realise that there's apparently a symbiotic relationship between the
kind of like
creature.
An Avatar.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, no, it is actually. Yeah, no, because and the scene was almost very Avatar-esque, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, they realised that the reason that the sister ship, the Glenn, and that we saw in the previous episode, was able to make these jumps was it had developed a supercomputer, which it turns out was actually this creature.
Yeah.
And that they've developed a way of interfacing with the creature, and that's how they're going to make these long jumps. So they there's a skip in logic at some point. We don't really see it explicitly told, but they decide that they're going to beam the creature into the drive bay, which is just this glass box on the engineering.
Yeah, I think I'm not entirely sure what what that box is, other than the fact that that's kind of where they release the spores.
Yeah, there's something's going on in there, but it's Star Trek.
Yeah,
it's you suspend your disbelief.
I guess maybe it gives them a bit more room to move around and not generate static electricity as such, but maybe something along those lines.
Actually, no. Before we get to this, we're back on the Klingon ship, and they're back on the Shenzhou, and they're salvaging the Vok and his well, what I think will become his bit on the side, anyway.
His bit on the side.
Yeah. Her name is Lorel. They kind of have a moment. They have which is very tender for Klingons, very unlike Klingons, where she's like, I'm your champion, I'm your your defender, I'm
with you.
I'm with you, basically, as they're trying to salvage this thing from engineering on the Shenzhou.
They were taking dilithium.
Well, I think they were taking the dilithium matrix, which is what
I thought that was like not like a battery, but I thought that was kind of
it's like the starter motor, I suppose.
Yeah,
in the warp core.
Right.
I guess that's the something like that, so they can get the ship going, and they have this moment, which is all very nice and tender. Anyway. So we go back to the Discovery, and they beam this creature into the drive. They activate the supercomputer, and somehow it manages to connect with it.
Yeah, no, because that Michael looked over the damage on the previous ship, and she noticed that something broke out of that glass containment field, and then went through everything else. So it didn't go into it; it came out of it.
That's right.
It came to the assumption that maybe they were using the creature Ripper.
Ripper, that's it. They dub it Ripper.
Maybe they were using Ripper to communicate with the spores.
That's it. And as they connect, the chief engineer kind of goes like, "Oh wow, I can see the entire galaxy on my heads-up display that I've just happened to have here now suddenly." Anyway, and they realise that they can now transport the ship, which they do. And they immediately transport right above the colony that's currently under attack by the Klingon bird of prey, or birds of prey, squadrons of them. And then the captain, this was a bit odd, and I was a bit disappointed because I was hoping for a bit of a space battle, but I guess they spent all their money on a sun.
Yeah.
But they stand there and they get shot at for a bit, and then as the Klingon ships get closer and closer and closer, he's like, closer, and he's like he's got his fingers up, and he's like looking out the view screen, he's like lining them up, and then just as they're about to bomb them for the last time, he's like, engage the drive. And I guess they released some mines.
Yeah, I think they like left torpedoes behind or something.
It was something like that, wasn't it? And
which was miraculous at them blowing up, because they didn't appear that far above the mining colony.
It was a bit, as I say, it was a bit weird, this end bit. I was a bit disappointed, but I
was really hoping that when they obviously engaged and shot off, I was kind of thought that maybe it took things would have been a certain radius with them, and I thought maybe they would just like teleport them away somewhere and then teleport straight back.
That's what I was wondering what they were going to do.
I didn't realize they were just going to see you later.
Or kind of teleport in, shoot a bit, teleport out, do something anyway. But yeah, they teleport away, and then the Klingon ships fly into the explosion of the torpedoes, and the colony's saved.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
One thing, actually, I've got Ash on Facebook, and he actually said he quite liked the atmosphere when they were transporting, when they were using the drive. The creature was obviously in pain.
In a lot of distress, yeah.
Yeah, and Michael was kind of connecting with it.
Yeah, it kind of felt bad that it was her idea to put him through that.
Yeah, and you put a creature in a box
and then stick needles in it.
That's right. Yeah, and
I do feel like that maybe in some later episodes that Michael's going to suggest being kind to it and feeding it something and then it's going to create an even more power.
Yeah,
like even more power and more like a greater star system as such.
Yeah, but possibly. I think
that's in something. That's in a movie, or it's in a TV program where they're like, oh yeah, you could be mean to it, or if you're kind to it, then you get more power. I can't remember what it is. I think it might be Pokemon for some reason.
Well, probably. I don't know. I don't know. But that's going to be that's going to be.
She's going to find another way to get all the to connect with it.
But I think that's going to be quite a big theme, which is kind of like, here we've got this drive now that works, but in order to do it, we have to torture this creature.
Yeah,
I think that's going to cause some conflict for sure. And then so they're triumphant in their victory of the mining colony, and there's a bit of a cheesy moment where the colonists, the miners,
they
run
just stroll out. They still got mining helmets though as well,
yeah,
which is incredible.
And blown up Klingon ships are raining down on them, and one of them's holding a young girl, and the kid looks up and goes, "Oh, who saved us?" It's like,
if I was in a situation where, for some reason, things that were attacking me all blew up outside, I wouldn't run out to look at it. When it's all raining down on you, especially when your shield is just gone as well, I would be like, I'm going to stand here for a bit. I'm going to wait for Starfleet to
that whole last
people.
5-10 minutes was just so rushed, and I don't know.
Especially seeing it was a longer episode as well, because it's 49 minutes.
Yeah, you would have thought that they could have.
I thought maybe they would have drawn it out for maybe 15 minutes rather than 8 minutes, just at the end.
Just for a little bit more. But as I was hoping for a space battle. I'm still hoping, because the space battle in the first episode still wasn't that good either, and Star Trek for me has always been, sure, it's about the characters and it's about the journey, but it's also about the really cool things that you do when you're there. And they haven't really, I don't know. We'll see. There's loads more episodes to come. Exactly. So I don't know.
How many did you say was the full season? About 20 episodes?
So there's 8. Yeah, so there's 8 and 6.
8 and 6.
So 14. Yeah, 14 this series. But and I'm fine with that, because $2.5 million an episode. I'm totally down with that.
Yeah. It's pocket change for me.
Yeah, well, you're in your gold suit.
Exactly.
Yeah. Tune into the Geekstation to understand what that's all about.
I still don't understand.
It's David and his Netflix money. Anyway, so we then flick back to the Klingon ship, where
it's Cole or something like that.
Yeah, where Vok comes back, and so the Commander Cole has basically taken over the ship. He's bought foods. He's bought blood wine. He's everyone's much happier now, and he's like, well, you're an albino Klingon. Why would we have no house? Why would we follow you? What are you? Are you stupid? I'm now in command of the ship, and I'm gonna rule the Empire. And then he's like, well, no, the Klingon Empire is united. And he's like, well, only while we're at war, and after that, I'm probably going to take over. Yeah. So I'm going to take this ship, and I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
And then L'Rell, his bit on the side, we think she kind of like reaches over. She takes some of the food. She gives him the dilithium matrix, and the look on Vok's face is just like, you bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
it's heartbroken.
Yeah, he's like, I thought we had a connection, and now you're betraying me. Yeah, basically, yeah. And then Cole wants to kill him, and L'Rell goes, no, I've got a much more dishonourable way for him to die. We'll beam him to the graveyard.
Let him die alone on a starship. Starfleet ship.
Yeah, and so he beams across, and then at the end of the episode, as the ship, the Klingon ship, flies off into presumably the battle. Or to fight the war, she beams onto the ship, and she's like, no, I'm here, and we're gonna.
I don't know what they're gonna do from there, though.
Well, no, so
because they took the power source.
Well, she mentions that he's gonna have to go and meet the matriarchs. I don't know who these are.
How they're gonna get there.
This is something they're gonna start rewriting Klingon culture. I think. Yeah. I don't know, and how they're gonna get there, I don't know. Although she managed to beam on to the ship after the ship had flown off into warp, so maybe she's got a shuttlecraft or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But and he's basically like, "What's it going to cost me?" And she's like, "Everything." And he's like, and looks like solemnly off into space. Yeah. So I don't know where that's going. I'm wondering, maybe, and I this could be way out of left field, but the original Klingons in the original series, they were basically just like they were just guys in makeup. They didn't have any ridges. They had like weird moustaches, and then we didn't really start seeing the ridges until one of the films. I think it was The Undiscovered Country. I think it was as late as The Undiscovered Country. It may have even been The Wrath of Khan. It was early. I can't remember. Anyway, one of the two. But I wonder if when she goes, what's it going to cost me? And she goes, everything. I wonder if he's going to go through a transformation that maybe loses his ridges.
Maybe. loses his kind of like his Klingon.
His Klingon-esque looks, and then I mean I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to be quite interested to see where that goes. And then we're back on the Discovery, and they're all joyous in their victory, and the Burnham has received earlier in the episode the last will and testament of Philippa Georgia, the captain that died, her captain. And she decides that she's, the Tilly, her roommate, basically says, look, you shouldn't be afraid to open this because I saw you stood up to a horrible monster and you're not afraid of anything. So, come on, buck up and
you're only afraid of yourself.
Yeah, that's it. Come on, you're on Star Trek. Come on, let's get better. So she decides to open it up, and there's quite a moving, quite poignant scene because she's like, by this time I reckon you've got your own command.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you, all of this. And it's like,
yeah, you're like my daughter.
Yeah, it's like you mutineered against her. Yeah. You've got no rank. You
pretty much killed her.
Yeah. So it was pretty powerful. And then she's like, I left you my last will, my ancient artifact.
And you called it as well.
I did, yeah. I called this artifact, which was the telescope that we saw in the first episode. And she, used this to look to the future and all of that. And that was lovely. And it was lots of character development, I feel, in this. Much more so in other Star Trek series. Ashley said Michael is growing. And he really liked the kind of the fact that the characters were progressing in this and stuff. And I feel like that's good. I really do like that they're focusing a lot on the characters, not necessarily what's going on out and about, which I quite like.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing the first two-handed punch.
Yes,
sure.
I can't
wait for that.
Well, I don't. Yeah, well, maybe I don't know if we're going to get it.
I really hope we do.
We haven't had any red shirts, so I mean, we've had people that have died that should be wearing red,
and they were wearing red at the end.
For sure, yeah. So so that was Star Trek Discovery's episode 4. The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry. I think that was probably. I don't know if it's my favorite. It was definitely my favorite episode in terms of the
progression.
Yeah, and also it felt more like last week's episode really felt like an episode of Star Trek. This episode really felt like an episode of Star Trek. Like we've got some kind of convoluted plot that we have to do. We're going to science it, and then we're going to do it, and then we're going to beat the bad guys. Yeah. That's like for me, that's like real Trek. But it still didn't. I still want more. I still want more from it, and I'm not.
It's like it's drip feeding you.
Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it is. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. What do you think so far of the?
I'm really enjoying the series.
Yeah,
it's definitely it's definitely something I can get on board with and keep going with. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing where the characters go and finding out a bit more information about everything. And I like that you guys, as proper Star Trek fans, don't know all the answers.
Yeah, well,
that you're kind of learning along with myself.
Yeah, for sure. Well. That's good. But yeah, I'm not sure quite how I feel, as I said at the beginning, about where they're going with rewriting some Trek canon and stuff like that. But I also like it because of that. Exactly that is that I don't know where it's going to go, because at any moment they could just throw something at me that makes me yelp out because they've killed off a main character or something like that. And I think that's exciting, and I like that, and that's. Yeah, it's very 2017, but I think that's in a good way, and Star Trek purists are probably not going to enjoy it maybe as much, but hey,
Yeah, like they do have some callbacks, like the I can't remember what's the name of the
tricorder.
Yeah, that kind of looks similar to.
Yeah, no, she's got a big box and then she's holding like little, and that's good, and then you can kind of see the technology's kind of there. I don't know, we'll see, but anyway. That was this week's podcast of Discovery Episode 4. The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry. Next week's episode, Episode 5, is called Choose Your Pain. Ooh. So I have a feeling that's probably going to be a mix between...
A whip or a paddle.
Yeah. Something's going on the Discovery, which is probably going to be juxtaposed with something that's happening with Vok and these trials maybe that he's going on. Choose Your Pain. I reckon that's possibly... And we'll see anyway.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this on the YouTubes, then please, if you like it, hit subscribe. And don't forget to check out the other podcast that we do on a weekly basis. This week we were talking about Blade Runner 2049.
We were.
We had some thoughts on that. We had disagreeing.
We did have some disagreeing
thoughts. And
Sin was wrong. I was right.
Yeah, sure, okay. And
Martin was wrong as well, but
that's just Martin. Yeah. And Martin's also got this awesome interview with the art director of a game that's just been released on Steam called A Hat in Time. And check out the podcast. It's up on YouTube now. That would be awesome. We're also on Facebook, facebook.com/The Geekstation. And you can find me on Twitter at Mr Sinn Sinny, although at the moment it's more of just a feed of all our videos, actually. I should really start putting some thoughts on Star Trek on there, and maybe. And David, they can find you on Twitter.
Yeah, if you want to hurl a lot of abuse at me because I don't know anything about Star Trek, you can do that at DavidTGS.
At David TGS, that's right, yeah. I suppose that's it for this week. So thank you very much for tuning in. And the only thing to say is it's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from Sin.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Cheerio.
Boom.
Shaka.